beat 'em again. It's the best team in London, no, the best team of all. Everybody knows us, we're called Millwall. Let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em come. Let 'em all come down to the den. It's Saturday in Congo Lane, we've all come down to cheer. We've had our jelly deals and our glass of beer. Come rain or shine all the time, our families will bring. And as the Lions run on the pitch, everyone will sing. Let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em come. Let 'em all come down to the den. Let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em come. We'll only have to beat 'em again. It's the best team in London, no, the best team of all. Everybody knows us, we're called Millwall. Let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em come. Let 'em all come down to the den. It's Saturday in Congo Lane, we've all come down to cheer. We've had our jelly deals and our glass of beer. Come rain or shine all the time, our families will bring. And as the Lions run on the pitch, everyone will sing. Let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em come. Let 'em all come down to the den. Let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em come. We'll only have to beat 'em again. It's the best team in London, no, the best team of all. Everybody knows us, we're called Millwall. Let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em come. Let 'em all come down to the den. Let 'em all come down to the den.
And Wallop, we're live. Welcome to the Den Debate. It's been a while, boys. It's been a while. Us three, the dream team, reunited. Why do I look so fucking red? I look like a lobster. Kenny and Henry from the No One Likes to Talking podcast. Thanks for joining me, boys.
Evening, Dan. Evening, Ken.
Evening. Lots and lots to talk about. And Kenny's got a crab and lobster fish pie in the oven. What else is it?
I've got a lobster, crayfish and crab macaroni cheese.
Jeez.
Answers in the comments where you think you bought it, because we know the answer. But boys, loads to talk about, loads and loads. Of course, the January transfer window is open. So let's crack straight on. And we're going to start, I was going to say with the bad news, but not all bad in my opinion. The cup defeat. We're out the cup, beaten by the Nigels up the road after a gallant effort from the boys. Henry, you was at the game. Kenny wasn't, but you did watch it. So let's go to someone who wasn't at the game, because I was as well. Ken, thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed watching the game, actually. I think that every single time we get in the cup and we get a big opposition, I think the fans turn out and I think the players turn up. And I don't think that was any different this year round to every other year. I think that the boys put in an amazing performance. And actually there was a lot of positives to take out of that. Well, I couldn't take a negative out of it with the players, that's for sure. And you also found out a lot about the likes of Billy Mitchell, Danny McNamara, the real Millwall boys of our team, and what it means to Millwall. And to me, that was a big positive watching the game.
Yeah, mate. Look, we've lost the last two games, back-to-back defeats. Okay, we was expected to lose to Palace. We've conceded 5 goals, but I've been full of praise for the team, because all I want is a bit of entertainment for my money. We're not going to go up. We can't go down. That's all I really care about. So as long as they give everything and I feel like they put a shift in, then I'm happy. And like you said, everyone was good in my opinion. The one minor thing I picked out was that, Malone got exposed once for the goal, twice. That's when he should have changed it, but he didn't, because he reacts to going behind before he'll do it at level. But couldn't fault them, especially, as you say, the Millwall homegrown talent really shone against better opposition. H, what did you think, mate?
I thought George Savile had a great game, actually.
Yeah,
he's taken a lot of grief, even though I think he's been played out of position. I thought it's interesting. You can't fault any of them. I thought Billy Mitchell showed his grit and determination, because I thought he struggled a bit, to be honest with you, to get to grips with that midfield. I mean, we were a bit overrun in midfield anyway, right? But he stuck in there and showed his grit and determination and really come into the game in the last 20 minutes. And obviously his cross at the end there could have gone in anywhere. Could have been like the Everton game, couldn't it, a few years ago? So very unlucky. I love the fact the rain was coming down. I love the fact everyone was boozed up and in the blue from like 10 in the morning. I mean, I went in the Blue Anchor and couldn't even get in there. And it was before opening. So I don't know what was going on in Bermondsey. But yeah, loads of aggro, loads of atmosphere, loads of, Palace fans smashing up seats, throwing chairs. Great atmosphere. I didn't think when I saw the starting team that we potentially would have enough quality. And I'm not trying to dig him out, but someone like Alex Pearce, who I thought actually had a really good game, did the best with his abilities. But crikey, those Palace players were strong and fit and quick. And, he did well to hang in there with them. But when I saw that team, I thought, a few of us have seen Alex Pearce towards the end of last season, certainly when I think back to games like the Bournemouth game and dare I even mention the Coventry game. He was really exposed and actually he did pretty well. Sean Hutchinson was immense. I've got to single him out, 200th appearance or whatever coming. And what a performance he had.
Interesting what you just said, because I fully agree. And it's weirdly the reason that I was happy with the performance. You said you looked at our team sheet, looked at theirs, thought we might struggle. And I don't think that we did show a lot of quality because we didn't really get the chance to. But what we showed, we did it towards the last 20 minutes, although we couldn't see the ball in there. But what we showed is what me and Kenny always say is all we fucking ask for is that grit, that determination, that pressing high, flying into tackles. It hasn't got to be spectacular football, Ken, is it? But that's just what we love to see.
Yeah, that's, I don't think anybody expected us to play Crystal Palace and beat them 4-0. If we was to ever win, we knew it would be a tight. We'd nick a goal. When we nicked the goal, we probably thought that we'd then sit back and try and keep that lead. But we actually didn't really. We've gone 1-0 up against teams very, very recently and sat back immediately. Yeah, and then all of a sudden we played Palace and we seemed to still. We did press. We didn't press as much after we got the goal. I suppose that's natural. You're going to protect your lead, but we still showed a lot of fight, a lot of aggression. We were still in their faces, and yeah, to me, that's all I asked for watching Millwall.
So I think we can all agree, definitely positives to take. Of course, the youngsters come on towards the end. We got Nana Boateng now, and people around me were going, who? So I've sort of said for a while he's going to be the next one to come through. Another really good player in the 23s is Sean O'Brien. I'll be surprised if he doesn't come through because he's very talented. But yeah, Tyler Bury or Tyler Berry, call him what you like. And that's one I got wrong because I didn't rate him at all in the 23s. He kept falling over. He was a bit like Fred, would run, take on loads of players, but he didn't fall over. But he looked, to me, a class act when he came on. It's so good to see so many of these youngsters coming through. H?
Yeah, well, Gary Rowett's actually said something today on News of Den. I was reading just before he came on about what they need to do now to kick on, and it is to come on and make an impact. And he's named some of those players for coming on and making an impact. Boateng always gets his foot on Billy Mitchell's cross, and like I said, it would have been bedlam at the Den, and they would have been needing more than sniffer dogs to keep people off the pitch if that goal had gone in anyway, I tell you. So it's it's mega. It's so good as well, going down there and watching the under-23s the other day and seeing some of those players that are coming through, and people are excited talking about Zach Lovelace, obviously, but they need to, it would be great to see them all playing in the same under-23s team for like a proportion towards the back end of this season, and maybe getting them into some of those pre-season friendlies if and when we can have them starting again next year and bringing some of them through. But yeah, Tyler really surprised me when he came on. He fearlessly was running at defenders and, trying to make things happen. So it would be fantastic to see him doing likewise, maybe if he gets a chance against Forrest on Saturday, coming on later on in the game. Yeah, well, we'll get on to the Forrest game a bit later on. We're also going to discuss a lot of what people are asking for. We're going to cover transfers, potential ins and outs. There has been a donation. Christian Bastianelli, you legend. Thanks for the donation, mate. I'm struggling to find it now amongst the plethora of... There it is. For Lions TV. Thank you very much. We'll put that towards Kenny's lobster mac and cheese, which was from Ken. Put people out of their misery.
Yeah, it was from Lidl's.
From Lidl's, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, Christian Bastianelli, mate, I doubt there's a Lidl's in Belgium, so we should say it's from a.
So if you don't hear from me after tonight,
yeah, we know why, mate.
it's been nice knowing you.
But funny, H, you just brought me on to another point that I hadn't written down, but you've nicely jogged my memory. Is that these youngsters, and I swear by this, I think COVID's played its part. Obviously, because you wouldn't see Nana Boateng on that bench. You wouldn't see Zach Lovelace coming on against Coventry. No. You wouldn't see Tyler. You might see Tyler Bury around it, but I think it's an absolute one positive to take from COVID. Now, in my mind, and people may not agree, I would possibly pull back Hayden Muller, who hasn't been playing at St Johnstone, or Alex Mitchell. Definitely the start of next season. But even this season, these youngsters we got, instead of maybe going out and spending money we haven't got or getting a loan from a club that, a player that's previously played for Gary Rowett in a different time in their career, which he seems to love to do, we're going to be safe, or when we are guaranteed to be safe. I think it'd just be stupid, would be criminal, Ken, to not put these youngsters in, wouldn't it? Surely. And I'm not saying they're going to make the grade straight away, but 10 games at the end of the season is only going to point them in the right direction, surely.
Yeah, I think that, like you say, if we're not looking like we're playoff contenders, we're not going to go down, then what is wrong with putting some of these players in? You haven't got to say, for instance, put Muller and Mitchell in and start them at every game. But,
of course, yeah.
If we're playing a game and, I don't know, we're drawing 1-1 and it's the 80th minute, we know it's going to finish 1-1, put one of them in, But yeah, I think when you have players like that, you need to bed them in anyway. So, give them 5 minutes, then give them 10 minutes, and just give them a taste. That few minutes that Lovelace got the other day, and the few minutes that Boateng got the other day, it's ridiculous. But just being around the first team, going and warming up before the game, actually getting on the pitch and being part of that squad, that will help them no end, and in turn will help the club. So, yeah.
You're right what you're saying. And Jed Wallace is on the stream, but he's asking about Dan Moss. Cheers, Jed. We'll get to you shortly, actually. You're next up on the agenda. But I know that Billy Mitchell benefited personally from, say, first not even playing, just fucking being around it, being on the coach, being in the dressing room. Can be so beneficial. I think a team in our position should definitely. Isaac Alafe, Joe Turner says, is another one who's out on loan scoring goals.
I was going to mention him, yes.
It's the first time in a long time, mate, we've had a fucking lot of talent coming through, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I guess the last batch was kind of the Tomos, Freds, kind of some of those guys coming through. But this has got feels like it's got a lot more potential. And fair play to Gary Rowett for getting these players out on loan and doing that. I felt like Harris didn't always do that, but actually at that lower league, I think you can blood players a bit easier in League One than you can in the Championship. Championship's a big step up, much more physical. And you could see that by watching the under-23s the other day. Zach Lovelace has got a bit of presence about him and can knock people. He can't do that against defenders, in the Championship, not yet. Anyway, he looks like he's going to build himself into quite a strong lad. But you don't know.
He didn't look out of place physically, did he? The other day, he was 15. Right?
I don't think so. Again, but it's that exertion you have to give time and time again to get to that same level, which I think could potentially knacker someone who's not quite as fit as some of those professionals eating all of their, matrix bars and all that nonsense. But the one thing I would caution, and I think back to Sid Nelson, and I think there were a few mistakes made around him, and obviously we've got a different management side and a much better setup now, but it's all well and good throwing people in, but you can lose confidence and it can kill you pretty damn quickly as well. So you've got to make sure, as Kenny quite rightly says, finding the right moments in those games that, inverted commas, might become like dead rubbers at the end of the season. It's 1-1. You got 10 minutes, son. What have you got to lose? Go out and just run at them. See what happens. A bit like what happened when Tyler came on. No one was expecting anything. Have a free hit and do that. Whereas, if you're still in contention and playing in a game like, and I always think back to the tension that we had at the Sheffield United away game a few years ago when, we were 8th, they were 9th, and it was literally almost like a 6-pointer to get into the playoffs. So it was interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure. Zampa the Lions, not the Zampa the Lion, probably, or hopefully. Jono Samba, Tommy Tyne, Kevin Braniff were all the next big things and did nothing. Yeah, it's very true, mate. It's very true. So yeah, I mean, I think the way football's approached these in this day and age from then. I know it wasn't a million years ago, but I think it's a lot more goes into the diet, a lot more goes into the care of the players and nurturing them right. And we're definitely doing something right in that area, aren't we? Without an absolute shadow of a doubt. But okay, so that's the Palace game, done and dusted. We're happy with it as a whole. Positives to take from a whole. The only thing I don't, hope is, and I've put this in my preview, but it goes out tomorrow. But I filmed it this morning. We got to maintain what we did against Palace. We can't go back to, reacting and sitting back and consolidating against Forrest. We can't. If we're going to make the playoffs, which Steve Lees and myself are convinced we won't. He says anyone still talking about playoffs is mad. Around 41 points for 22 games required. So give these youngsters a chance from now until the end of the season. I couldn't agree more, Steve, but Rout won't do it at this point. There's no way, not until maybe March time he might try some of that. But, I mean, look, I'd look to do it now. I think we're comfortable.
But also, I'd just say, Steve, as well, it's a terrible division this year, the Championship.
I was going to say that as well. I think that's another...
Shocking. Everyone's beating each other. We're going to speak in a minute about Forrest and their form. But, like, if you were a betting man, you just every year you can't bet on the Championship anyway. And I think it is, don't get me wrong, I totally agree. I think it's such a long shot because we had this conversation at the beginning of the season, right? We thought we were 10 goals short of making the playoffs. Unless we bring in a miracle man or Tom Bradshaw continues doing what he's doing. I hope he does. We would need something special. But honestly, if we could just get our wins at the Den, turn it into a fortress, yeah, it's a terrible division this year.
A lot of comments about Bradshaw. He's obviously signed a new contract. There's one there on Matt Smith to Wigan. That is a no-go. That was a rumour and nothing more.
Good.
Ballard potentially coming back. But your man Matteo. But next on the agenda, we've talked about Palace, we've talked about youngsters. Now let's talk about someone with a bit of experience, our main man, our talisman, Jed Wallace. I couldn't believe when I saw it. I mean, I've heard loads of rumours, but to get here something concrete from Sky Sports, breaking news, Jed Wallace signs a pre-contract agreement or has agreed to sign one with Besiktas. Ken, what was your initial reaction?
It's so mixed with Jed. Like there's no disputing that he has been absolutely fantastic for our club, and I don't think there's no disputing that he's a good player. He's a very good player. However, my argument has always been with Jed, he is not just Millwall. Like he's not. We don't have to have Jed on our team to be a good team, and sometimes I feel like that is the case, So if Jed ends up having a bad game, we end up having a bad game.
You're spot on, and I got sucked into that a little bit as well. I started to believe, if Jed doesn't perform, we got no chance. And I think it's been a little bit of a blessing. I know, look, of course we want him, but it's been a little bit of a blessing in disguise that it's given the other players the opportunity to try and, I mean, I don't think Bradshaw and Afobe's partnership was what it was while Jed was in the team, was it? I think it's quite a new development. That one.
And also, what you actually do is you give somebody else the opportunity. And look how calm and collective Ojo looks on the ball in that 10. Granted, we said this in the WhatsApp group about he's playing against a different level of player, which will give him more time on the ball in the Palace game, which is what he needs. But Jed Wallace would never have done anything that Ojo did, if that makes sense. And also his delivery is much better than Jed's. So I know it's going to say it quite heavy-hearted, but I don't have a problem with Jed going. I'd like to get some money for him. However, if he's got a pre-contract agreement, love to have him in the team till the end of the season. However, I don't think it's the end of Millwall when Jed Wallace goes. And I think that we'll start improving more when he goes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, mate. 100%. You're spot on what you're saying. So I got sucked into that a little bit. Like, well, if Jed don't play well, we don't play well. It's quite a narrow-minded view, isn't it? But it's easy to get sucked into it. Ken said there, and it just leads me on to what I wanted to ask you. Your opinions as you see it. He said we'd like to get some money for Jed. Of course, we would. What's this whole Besiktas Forrest situation as you see it, just from your perspective? It hasn't got to be, what is actually happening. From your opinion, I mean, I thought that Besiktas have offered something. I suspect that Jed's agent was involved in that press release, or maybe even our club was, to try and force Forrest to up their bid, and they had bid. That's just the feeling I was getting from him. Where do you think he could end up?
I mean, again, this is, I spoke to, one of our former chairmen about this very thing not that long ago, about, re-signing players. How difficult is it for us to get an extension to Jed's contract, etc., etc. And he just said, this is exactly the kind of thing that they'll do. They'll get some random non-committal agreement with a club, and then, that will flush out the real interest. And, there have been so many different teams linked with him. But when Besiktas came through, I was like, I mean, that is quite random. They're not even doing particularly well in the Turkish league. When I looked them up, I think they're about 8th and, 1 million points off winning the championship this year, but their players are on a lot of money. And he's at that point in his career where it's, excuse the phrase, but shit or bust. So he's either got to go, no, I'm full in with Millwall. We can take a step up to the next level with this team, and I can get paid. Or I need to go and, go somewhere. I'm 27. I've only got one career. I'm running out of time. I've done a lot of good at this football club. He's raised his profile above and beyond, head and shoulders where he could go. I mean, I heard about Celtic, I heard about Rangers. I thought they were probably both quite good fits. Scottish football, he could go up there and tear it up, play European football, get paid, get all that stuff, and not have to move to the other side of Europe to do it. So I don't know. I can't quite believe the Forrest stuff. I don't see it. Forrest are too similar to us. They're about a point above us in the table. We've got a game in hand on them. I know that Steve Cooper, when he talks about Forrest nowadays, the Forrest manager, he's trying to instill a big club mentality. So maybe he's selling Jed something like that. I don't know. I would have thought it would be for the money. I don't personally feel he owes Millwall anything. I've loved the journey that we've been on with him since 2016. I've loved watching him develop as a footballer. He is one of those individuals, and I do think we would miss. I think back to the Blackpool game. It's a stagnant game. It's a bit of a battle. We've somehow managed to go 1-0 down from one of the most monumentally disastrous sort of like Murray Wallace sliding into comical things. I had a mate from Northern Ireland who was laughing for the next 20 minutes after seeing that. But he pulls out a free kick, doesn't he? Out of nowhere, gets that free kick, slots it in, and then we score in the 86th minute and win. So do we have that kind of player? Maybe Ojo's that sort of player, but, he's not our player, is he? So I don't know. No. I mean, again, good luck to the lad. But Besiktas, I think that sounds slightly mad to me. Forrest, I just don't think it's a big enough step up. But then where does he go? Because a lot of people don't think he's good enough for the Premier League. So,
he is, but just on his day. On his day, in my opinion, he's good enough for the Prem. Not
and maybe with better players around him. I don't know. He's good enough for those bottom 5 teams, isn't he? Like, to compete with those bottom 5 teams is what we're talking about, really.
You said something there, H, which I'm going to ask Kenny his opinion now. And it's a good one. You must have read my mind, because what is, if I see a lot of people say online, if he goes to Besiktas, wish him all the best, been a fantastic servant, will be a legend, talked about that in years to come. But if he goes to Forest, he can fuck off, basically. My perspective on it is that when the time comes, and if the money's right, not even if the money's right, he's done his time. Okay, he said he'll stay and try and get us up, and we're not going to go up. So we all know that. So I've not got a problem with players moving on if it's that time in their career, if they've been a good servant for the club and they give everything. Ken, what would you say? Where do you think he'll end up potentially? And if he was to go, say, what people say in the comments, like a championship rival of ours, would you? Well, you're always angry, but would you be angry with him even more than normal?
No, do you know what? The likelihood, because we all think this, is he'll probably sign a contract with us and he'll be with us for another 3 years.
That hasn't been talked about. That's an interesting shout.
Yeah. Look, if he goes to Forest, the reason why the problem with him going somewhere like Forest for me is that means that, for instance, Steve Cooper is showing a lot more ambition than what Gary Rowett is. Like H said about ambition, where they want to be, etc. Now, if Steve Cooper's turning around and going, listen, we want to be fighting for the playoffs this end of the season, I'll give you what you want if you know, and you just work hard to get us there. Well, Gary Rowett should surely also. I know it's not just Gary Rowett, but it's the board, it's the team, everyone behind should be turning around and saying, we've got aspirations for the playoffs as well. This part of the season, we'll give you what you want, or even like you say, the extension. I know he doesn't need the extension, does he? He's with us, isn't he? So
So another question for you both. Sticking with you, Ken, for a second, because he was going to sign it. He said he'd sign a contract with us, but we wouldn't give him what we would. You think if we offered it him now, he'd sign it still?
Well, you don't know. Again, like H said, he's at that point in his career where, you know, he's not that he's coming to the end, but he's probably got that one last chance to make it big. So you couldn't argue with him if, for instance, I don't know, let's just say, for instance, let's say Southampton, someone like Southampton came in.
Burnley been linked with him.
Burnley,
like that. Yeah, I get what you mean.
You know, the teams that probably aren't going to come down from the Premiership, you know, but they're always in that sort of battle. You wouldn't be able to argue. You'd just be like, right, do you know what? Yeah, not a problem. You've given it a chance. You're gonna. It's your last chance at, you know, trying to make it big. Go and do it. And I hope you set the world alight. I really do, because we can turn around and go, that's our Jed Wallace, you know. But going to another Championship club, for me, I have nothing against Jed Wallace with that, but I would have everything wrong with Millwall with him doing that, because it would show our aspirations compared to something, you know.
So I'm going to slightly disagree with both of you here, and I could get shit for what I'm about to say. But I don't think we're on par with Forrest as a club, if I'm honest. I think historically they're a bigger club than us.
Jack's right.
I think
20 like the accounts, Dan, you are right, mate, because, you know, we've made losses over the last 3 years of over £21 million that's been backfilled by John Berylson.
And the thing is that they always have a go. They always have a go for us, but they never actually get up, do they? They're one of them teams. So I think that's something to factor in. You know, I will get shit for that, but in my opinion, obviously, historically, they're a bigger club. They're they're one city club. They've got Notts County, and they're in non-league, but they're a fucking huge club. But then I say that, are they a huge club? Because they're one of these clubs. Okay, so you won the fucking European Cup back-to-back in early 1980. Does that still make them a massive club? They get big crowds.
I mean, average attendance is 3 times what ours are, I think. Is that about right? No, not 3 times. That would be twice, double.
The thing is, though, boys, I mean, you can look up what Jed Wallace is earning at the moment. And I'm pretty sure, I might have this wrong now, but I'm pretty sure he's on 16 grand a week.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
I would believe that to be around that figure,
yeah. Now, our highest paid player in our club is Connor Mahoney on 18 grand a week.
Right, so where are you seeing this, by the way? Because we're not suggesting at Lions TV that we know they're fucking
waiting. No. So I have seen it online. Like I say, I can't remember where I've seen it, but
transfer.
I don't know anything. But if Connor Mahoney, for instance, is on 18 grand a week, and I'm Jed Wallace and I'm on 16 grand a week, and I'm asking for 25 grand a week.
You also want more out of principle. You want more than Connor Mahoney out of principle as well.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't think that it's unreasonable to be asking for that type of money. And like a lot of the comments have said, you know, if we're offering 1.5 million for this person, 1.3 million for that person, there obviously is some money in the kitty. And again, it boils down to ambition. Is it worth it, etc., etc.
Another point, H, which I'm going to lead you on to, and Stephen Banks has commented it, because when Kenny said it, I thought the same thing, Steve. He wants ambition. Have we got that under Rowett? Now, I'm of the belief, in my opinion, looking at what I see, the way we usually set up under Rowett, I'm of the belief, and I'm strongly confident he wanted the Coventry game it called off as well, because the club wanted it off, and obviously that decision would lie with the manager, wouldn't it? You know, the ambition under Rowett, is there any ambition under Rowett? I think Rowett is, you know, just from what I'm seeing as a fan, I don't know anything concrete. I like to put that one out there just before I get accused of anything. He doesn't really rate our players, I don't think. I don't think he's got that much confidence in them, mate. So, you know, will he believe we can make the playoffs? Will he have that chat with Jed Wallace saying, well, I've got aspirations of the playoffs? Because you can't fucking draw your way to the playoffs.
But mate, I'm gonna just go out and defend Gary Rowett and just say I disagree. I think he's talked about having He's talked about having a 3-year plan. That 3-year plan's been disrupted by COVID. End of, basically. When just before COVID come along, we were on a mad roll.
In which way?
What do you mean?
Financially, players he couldn't get in because of COVID? No crowds?
Well, yeah. Well, no crowds. I was literally just about to get onto that point. And one of the main thrust of my point is, and we'll never know this. So this is complete like speculation. We go up to Forrest, Friday night game. We smash them 3-0. And everyone's singing One Gary Rowett. And we look like a team to me that are making a drive towards the playoffs. At that moment, we are just playing. And we got Jason Malumbi, of course. You know, he was a shrewd player. You know, obviously picked him up from Harris, didn't he? I think that's right. Is that right? Yeah. But, you know, and he's trying to mould a team there. And I personally think we're probably heading towards the playoffs. We only missed out on the playoffs that season by, 3 or 4 points, something like that. And it went down to those last couple of games again. Like, you know, it was another good finish. But because of COVID, maybe. But then, Steve, maybe, but maybe we don't go on that run if the crowds are there. Again, this is all conjecture, right? How do you make that point if we don't know that that's there? And again, I am speculating, but genuinely, I think he's done the best that he can do. He's got this 3-year plan. Obviously, John Berylson's like, okay, let's try and roll with that 3-year plan and get something going. That 3-year plan's got to roll into 4, potentially 5 years now, because we've got to backfill some of this money. We've got to deal with losing players like Jed Wallace. We've got to deal with disappointments like Conor Mahoney. We've got to bring on some youngsters. We're creating the nucleus of a decent side. I don't think our recruitment's always helped by the stick that the club get the entire time. Some of that's brought on by ourselves. Some of that's, you know, made up by the media. It is what it is. But I think, you know, there are lots of things here. Does he play attacking winger-style football like we saw with Cahill, Reid, Ifill in that team? No. Does he set out to try and make us difficult to break down? Yes. Has that been working? No. He didn't have his back three to play from the beginning of the season. I can't remember the time that he actually managed to start Cooper, Hutch and Ballard together, which is what I think his master plan was, if I was speculating and looking at those signings. So, you know, as with all things, you've got to have those players to backfill. But, you know, we need competition for places in the team. Neil Harris was a big person about this. And we've got that in certain positions and we haven't in others. And you know, and I look at someone like Danny Mack, who I think is fantastic and is starting to go from strength to strength. But we need to have either a young, hungry player behind him, or we need to sign someone that's going to keep the fire underneath him. Because we saw with Marlon Romeo, when potentially you haven't got that, and I know there are other issues with Marlon as well, that have been well documented elsewhere. But, you know, when you haven't got that, you get players that start to stagnate. And I think, you know, again, I still think we've got issues up front that need to be resolved, but that's really difficult in the Championship.
Well, we're going to get onto the potential players coming in a minute. Yeah, that's right, 2 ins. But before that, only one rumour we've seen of a player leaving, and I'm going to let Kenny take this one away because we saw, funny enough, one of the boys put in the group chat said, Matt Smith's going to Wigan. And I said to him, where'd you see that? I said, don't say the 72. And he went, yeah, the 72. I said, no, don't listen to anything. Nothing against the 72, but unless I see it from Richard Cowley's mouth or Jake Sarnage's mouth / fingers, I don't believe it. So Matt Smith to Wigan or other League One clubs. Apparently Ken is a no-goer. I bet you're buzzing over that.
Do you know what? It's been really difficult because Matt Smith's really aged in the last year.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that I still am a big fan of Matt Smith, and I think I said to you on the phone, if Matt Smith went to Wigan, I'd back him to be the top goal scorer in the league, in League One. However, he unfortunately does not offer us anything anymore.
No,
he's not. H was talking about this earlier about being strong, and you know this Championship level is you have to be that little bit stronger. And I think unfortunately he's getting to that point, same as what Morrow did, you know, where all of a sudden you start not winning as many headers, and all of a sudden, or you're marked out of the game. Now, 3 years ago, Matt Smith would have scored that header against Palace. Now, don't get me wrong. I also do think that he was very well marked with that header, and that was very difficult to to score that, even if you're in your prime. But 3 years ago, I still think he would have scored that. So again, if we were to, we're going to get a lot for him, if anything. But if we was to get a little bit of money for him, again, thanks very much. You've been a great servant. But if you can no longer be even an impact player for us, then it's just warming the seat up on the bench when somebody else could be sat there.
Well, the thing is as well, if he was to depart, and not being rude to him, like you say, he's been a great servant, but if he doesn't depart and he does stay, he's just lost that edge now. He's just lost the ability to play at this level. So it is a bit of a, was a brilliant impact sub, throw him on. I always maintained he wasn't a 90-minute player. He'd come off the bench, he'd score. We'd try and play him for 90 minutes, he'd last 60 and wouldn't do anything. So to me now, he might as, I know it sounds rude, he might as well not be at the club because he doesn't do the one thing that he previously did. Of course, we've got Bradshaw and Afobe knocking him in, but with Bavardson missing in action, and I think it's playing out. Hey, what was that thing you said to me the other day at the 23s?
What was that?
Iceland. He's playing for Iceland at the minute, and they're playing
against Uganda. You know he scored.
Did he really?
Yeah, he scored.
Scored at that point
against Uganda in a friendly, and there's been a whole thing about whether actually it counts as a competitive goal because it was a friendly. I mean, I'm like, God, give the guy a break, blind.
Yeah, just let him have it. Just let him have it.
He hasn't scored since Mari Celesti was on the throne, and everyone's digging him out for not getting a goal. Jeez, Idi Amin would be turning in his grave.
Yeah, Joe. There's a few people backing Matt Smith here, and I understand he's been good for us. Joe Turner says, Smith is double marks always. Teams work Smith out. He's quite one-dimensional. Rob Marshall disagrees with me. He said, I think last 10, 15 minutes, he's still a goal threat. I mean, he's still getting, he still gets on the end of things, but he just seems he's got not lead in his boots, no lead in his head.
Can I say one other thing about Matt Smith as well? Yeah, You've got to give him the right delivery, and the right delivery was the type of delivery he got on Saturday in that header that Ken's quite right. He'd have scored 3 years ago. Keep hoofing up ball. Like when we run out of ideas, we go back to the Cooper 50 yards across the pitch. And Matt Smith trying to hold it up. He's not that player. He's not that player to hold the ball up and flicks on and winning headers like that. He's someone who likes the ball to come onto the ball, and when we first signed him, we spoke to a QPR fan that said that exact same thing. And he was like, if you try to use him as a target man, you're wasting your time. If you're whipping balls into the box for him to try and attack, he's unbelievable. So, I'd say that as well. And I agree. I think there potentially is a place there for him to try and be an impact sub and come on and get those goals in the last few minutes if we can get in the right service. Same as Tom Bradshaw.
Yeah. Well, Bradshaw and Afobe seem to have struck up fine. We've got what you say, you need like a big man, little man. We've got little man, but it seems to be definitely, it is definitely working. As I know Brian once said to me, the stats don't lie. So they're scoring goals, but with Matt Smith, in mine and Kenny's opinion, a little bit, and Kenny's his biggest fan. Trust me, he's got Matt Smith poster on his wall. With him, and now, in my opinion, and Kenny's out of the equation. Dad Bob missing in action. Isaac Alafe out on loan at Sutton. We are in need of a striker in this window. I think we can all agree. Yeah. And last week, or could have been early this week now, days all rolled into one. This guy just come out absolutely out of nowhere. Pape Habib Gouet, a young striker playing in the top tier of Belgium. Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was.
Previously played in the second division of Norway, 22 years old. What do we make of the club's new... I'm not going to call it an infatuation. I'm going to call it new angle to try and recruit from abroad. Ken?
Well, I mean, it's very refreshing when you start hearing, that we're linked with somebody from KV Kortnik or whatever it was called.
And actually willing to pay money for people that are quite young as well.
Yeah. And the other guy that I know you're probably going to get onto. So what's quite nice is actually it almost looks as if we have been trying to find other angles to sign players.
Yeah.
I could find one thing on YouTube of like a show reel. I think it was only like a couple of minutes long. He seems to be quite strong and pacey, but I don't know. The problem is what you're doing is you're investing £1.5 million into an unknown, I suppose. And to us, 1.5 million is a lot of money. You know, if you was to the Chelseas of the world and you were paying 1.5 million pound for him, you know he's going to go in the reserves. He's going to improve. He might make the first team, or you'll make a profit. But with us, we could pay 1.5 million, and he is absolutely pony. And you know, all of a sudden, we've got another dad bod on our hands.
Yeah, I think at least with dad bod. At least for dad bod, he played in England. This is my thoughts on.
Scored a few goals for Reading, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, he played for.
And he has scored against Uganda.
Yeah, that's one for the CV. You'll probably get a contract in the Prem after this. But you know, dad bod had come from English football to take a risk for an African player playing in the first division of Belgium, which we'll get on to Zane Fleming later. He's playing in the top tier of Holland. That's a bit more like it. I can't imagine, no disrespect to the Belgian league and anyone in Belgium watching, Christian Bastinelli might be able to help us out with this one, mate. What sort of, to scope that level, I mean, you'll know, all right, Isaac Alafe's playing in League 2, but you'll be able to get a better idea of where that is to the champ, wouldn't you? I mean, it's 2 divisions below for one, same country for another. H, what do you think about this Pape Habib Gouay? I'm going to keep saying his name because I practiced it and I got it right.
Dan, I wasn't even sure if this had any legs. I thought that somebody at the club had potentially denied any interest in this guy. I don't know.
No, it's that Rowett come out and said we are interested, but we haven't yet bid.
Okay, so that was it, right? We were discussing before we come on. I could name a few random players that we have picked up for far less money. I mean, look, who knows? I mean, the scouts must be doing something over there, right? And when you look at the model of Brentford's scouting, where they use the GX index and they use a lot of foreign scouts and they buy data from those lower leagues and say, is this the type of player that would fit into our system? Is this the type of player that would fit into our system? I don't know. I don't know anything about the guy, but I think the points that we're making about the Belgian Premier League, exactly. I mean, Anderlecht, Standard Liège, right, are probably 2 of the teams that I could name, and you know that's probably about it. I think when I look back at some of those foreign signings we've had from places like that out of the blue, I mean, you know, Abu Fofana, people like that, I'm
struggling to think of a success story. Are you?
Yeah, that's it.
Can you have the African player but come from Plymouth?
Yeah, and you know, and even some of those foreign players that came to us from a different team, but was it like I talked about Uwe Fuchs, obviously, you know, because the Palace game or whatever, and he scored that goal, that one goal, and he came from Middlesbrough, didn't he? But from, you know, Kaiserslautern via Middlesbrough, and scored quite a few goals for them, and then he came to us, and bless him, shocking. And we don't even talk about the Russians, you know. So
I see someone saying in the comments, as long as he's not Russian, we'll have it. Right, so just swerving back, because I like this question from Baz Lee, and we'll tie 2 questions into one here. As soon as we're discussing strikers, we've done Matt Smith, we've discussed the Ugandan slayer John Daddy Bavardson, and we've discussed now Papa Habib Gouay. There you go, 3 times in a row. We're going to talk now quickly. Boys, question, would we want to sign Afobe on a permanent if given the opportunity? And also, of course, Tom Bradshaw signed a new contract this week. 201 people in the live stream. Thanks for tuning in so far. 44 minutes in. Super chats are open if you want to donate to the channel. If you don't, not a drama. Just please subscribe. Right, boys? I can't remember who I asked first last time. So, Benik Afobe, I asked you. I can see you. Ben, if you got the opportunity to sign Benik Afobe on a permanent, would you?
Yeah, see, I'll probably get a bit of stick for this. I'm not Benik's biggest fan. I don't think that. I mean, he scored some important goals. Let's say, you know, the goal last week, but you know, I don't think he's a prolific striker in my opinion. And I couldn't even tell you what type of striker he is, because when you look at him from the past, he was a big, strong guy running at defences, taking people on.
That's what I thought he was. That's what I thought he was going to be when he came.
And we haven't seen any of that. That could be positional, you don't know. But what I'm trying to work out is what type of goal scorer is he, because you don't know. He hasn't scored any series of goals. One's hit his head.
One hit his head, one deflection.
One was a penalty.
The other one he nicked off the goalkeeper's foot. He scored a good goal against, I think it was against, I can't remember, Reading. Was it Reading? He scored a good goal where he shot across the keeper and Bradshaw flicks it onto him.
Yeah, and also, I'll be honest with you, that goal against Palace, for me, I'm pretty sure that it was Bradshaw that was really heaping that pressure on. It wasn't Afobe.
I agree.
I'll just say before we go on to I think I like him. I wasn't sure at first. Again, you said it could be positional. Rowett keeps sticking him fucking wide left. Now Rowett's finally decided to play 2 strikers and Bradshaw in the team, by the way, after 2 years in charge. That could have been part of his 3-year plan. He wanted to play one for 2 years. I think we're much better off. I think they're looking like a good strike duo. You can't deny the effort. Have you noticed as well that all fans love Benik Afobe of all clubs? You see him giving it one of them ones to the home fans every week, or like the away fans every week. He's just a likable guy, and he puts in the shift
to celebrate, all that nonsense.
I understand what you say, Ken, about Boohoo Man Ambassador. By the way, he's got 500,000 Instagram followers, but that's me and my work head on. That's another story for another day. So he, for me, puts in a shift. He's working now well with Bradshaw. He's not the most prolific, Ken, like you said. He missed a chance early against Palace, didn't he? Left foot over the bar.
And that is exactly what I mean, Dan. That type of opportunity is someone of his apparent class.
Yeah,
because it's always he's been signed for over 10 million and by 3 different clubs and all this. That type of player, in my opinion, if he was still at the standard that he would have scored. And it just feels like we've got the has-been Afobe. And if you've got a dogged, hard-working centre forward already in Bradshaw, and I'll tell you something, next game you watch on Saturday, I can tell you now, Benik Afobe will not header a ball. Not header a ball. He doesn't. He never ever heads the ball. He jumps.
That's that brand deal with Boohoo Man. He's got to look his best, doesn't he, on Instagram? That's why.
But I just think that there's space there for someone else instead of him. I'm not.
So you're no to signing Benik Afobe.
I'll be no. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I'm also no, but not for the reasons Ken said, because I would bring back Isaac Alafe. Benik Afobe isn't no spring chicken. No disrespect to him. Let us know. Are you Benik yes or are you Benik no in the comments as well? Let's get a few of you involved, because I've seen you commenting. Basley says definitely not a natural goal scorer. See, where I think Bradshaw is a natural goal scorer, but his all-round game isn't as good as Afobe's. H, what you say?
No, I completely agree. I said this prior to the season. Everyone's like saying to me, "Don't be negative." I'm like, well, look, I think he reminds me a bit of Lee Gregory, although he's probably not quite as good at holding the ball up as Leggers was. I thought he's phenomenal. And this is look, I want to make it absolutely clear. I think Lee Gregory is an absolute legend. I love the bloke. I think he's, I really respect everything that he did for the football club. And he always tried 1,000,000%. And actually probably did a little bit more. He was always running around. But I just, he's got to score goals.
Yeah.
Has he got 5 goals? Has he got 5 goals?
I don't even think he's got that.
Peter O'Mara offered me a bet that he'd score 10. I'll tell you, he scored against Fulham. I'll tell you a man who will tell us, Steve Lees, the legend in the comments. He scored against Fulham, he hit him on the head. He scored against Cardiff away. He done well to be fair in the box. He deflected.
Yeah.
He scored at Bournemouth at home.
Wasn't he? Yeah.
He scored a penalty away.
Bristol City.
He scored against Crystal Palace in the Cup. That's 5. So, sorry, H. Go on, mate. You continue letting us know your thoughts on Afobe as a player. And then finally, if you would or would not sign him.
Look, I love it. I love a lot of stuff about the bloke. He runs really hard. He does a lot of that work rate. But again, we don't need another Tom Bradshaw. We don't need another Lee Gregory. We need someone who's going to score goals.
Yeah.
We need a goal scorer. That's that. If we're 10 goals short and we're talking about not getting into playoffs, well, what do you try and fix? Try and fix those positions where you're there to score goals. I think, controversially, if he could stay fit, Mason Bennett, maybe he's more of a winger type, but he
did play up front for a spell, didn't he? He scored play up from a Jed. Looking back now, Ken at the time, he was going absolutely fucking mad at me, going, "Stop saying they should play up front together." I was like,
Yeah.
but Bennett scored 6 in 8 games or something, and he's like, no, I don't, stop it.
He's more of a. He feels like more of a natural finisher when you look at that finish. And I'll take one example, and that was his finish at Bennett's finish at Bristol City.
Yeah.
Like edge of the box, one touch, bosh.
Yeah.
To be honest,
that's the kind.
I
That's
like
what
Bennett.
we need.
I like Bennett, and I fucking love Conor Mahoney's our best player, mate. But I just don't. It's got to the point where I don't think it's going to work out for either of them at the club for whatever reasons. You know, well, I tell you what, Mahoney's struggling to stay fit. That's an issue for him slightly. He's back in training now, by the way, and I'm hearing he's been absolutely outstanding in training. But that aside, he's never been given a run. So I think if we're looking for long-term solutions for strikers, well, Mahoney's not a striker, and Bennett just can't stay fit, can he? Really frustrates me. But
I like the idea of Isaac. I do, and it would be fantastic to see him come in the second half of this season and spend some time around the first team. And you know,
I'll tell you what I will say about Lafayette. Talking about injuries, I stopped doing the loan videos because a lot of them have come back now, so I stopped doing the loanee videos. But he's been out here and there for a week and two for a couple of
little
injuries.
knocks and that, yeah.
But anyway, finally, sorry, yes or no to Benik Afobe? No. It's very split in the comments.
No, not for me, because we need goals.
Yeah, well, there you go, Benik. Unfortunately, the Pools panel decided you won't be signing for me at the end of your Stoke contract. The only thing that could sway me is if him and Bradshaw continue to... I mean, they've scored between them now in the last 10 games. As I said, Bradshaw set up Afobe at home to Stoke. At home now, Bournemouth. Bradshaw, Afobe returned the favour away to Hull. They're striking up a little bit of a partnership. So
that's true.
That one pans out. But Bradshaw 29 and Afobe, I'm guessing around the same age. I don't know exactly. But let's get on to his strike partnership. His strike partner, should I say? Back the Bradshaw. Tom Bradshaw recently, this week, signed a new contract at the club. As per with Millwall Football Club, they didn't tell us how long for. It's always a contract or a long-term contract. 29 years old. Looked like he could be heading out the door. Was in the last 6 months of his contract. 29 years old, Ken. But he signed a new contract, and I'm going to show him again. He's my boy. Look. You're my boy, Ken. So are you, H, but he's my boy, Bradshaw. Because I've always backed him. Feed the Bradshaw, and he will fucking score you goals, in my opinion. Ken?
Yeah, so I like Tom Bradshaw. This is I don't know why I'm so controversial. I think that he definitely should be starting, and I think he's the best striker that we have. However, you would never have said that he was, say, a fantastic championship striker, if that makes sense. And that's why I still think that we need some class alongside him. He puts in a lot of work. He shows a lot of effort, grit and determination. And more importantly, over the last season, he's been in the right place at the right time, which is detrimental. Is so important for being a striker. But I don't know where I'm getting at with this. Yeah, I'm happy about it. Does signing Tom Bradshaw complete our attacking options, though, if that makes sense?
No, I think he's come good, and I think that's a bonus throughout it. But I also think that, if he doesn't come good, he could potentially, he would have been leaving the club. But what it also does is, if we had released Bradshaw, for example, if he hadn't started scoring these goals, we've then got to go and scout someone, which we've got to stick the scout on a plane every time, apparently now. Do you know what I mean? Then you've got to pay, either a fee for that player or give them a big contract, and it can be so much more expensive than just keeping Bradshaw. But now, I feel we're keeping Bradshaw for the right reasons, not just because he likes to be local, for family reasons. I think I'll put something on Instagram, and so you take it away. I'm going to try and find it, because I put a post out about Bradshaw saying people were saying he's as bad as Bavardson and all this, and he can't play with his back to goal. That's not his game. And he actually liked it. So I was buzzing over that. So go on, H. You take us away on your thoughts on Bradshaw. Let us know in the comments. If you stick with the show and comment on what we're currently talking about, I can involve it. But if it's already gone or it hasn't come up yet, I can't. So, yeah, let us know your thoughts on Bradshaw in the comments. Afobe scored 6. I can't
Okay.
think the other goal, but yeah, H.
Yeah, I mean,
Bradshaw,
I mean, fair enough. He's come good at the right time. Again, I think I made the point earlier on this season that we didn't play to his strengths a lot of the time, and that he could score goals if we gave him the opportunities. And now and also he didn't have a run in the team. And I think when I speak to, ex-professionals like Phil Coleman who have played at the football club, he will say you can't just drop yourself into a team and be like match fit straight away. It takes you 3 or 4 games to get going. So he needed 3 or 4 games to get going. Then all of a sudden he's touched, he starts scoring, and now we're starting to see the benefit of that. So hopefully he can stay fit and just continue doing what he is doing. Yeah, lots of like poacher type goals, which I quite like. We saw a great goal last season at Derby away to show that he has got, the ability to score from a bit further out and not just get those poacher type goals. Ken's quite right, though. I don't think he's not like the answer to our dreams, is he? But he's the kind of striker that if you could pair him...
His last 9, I think.
7 in 11, is it? 7 goals in the last 11 games, something like that. Something like that. Yeah, that's it. Look, fantastic. I hope that he can fire himself into being a serious striker. And you look at so we've got Forrest obviously coming this weekend. Their top scorer is Lewis Grabban with 11 goals. So we start making comparisons like that. Would we say that Lewis Grabban's a top championship striker? I mean, I personally wouldn't anymore, right? And he hasn't even really reached that bar, has he? So
you've got to bear in mind how much service Grabban will get to how much service Bradshaw does.
Yeah. And
if we create chances, he'll score goals. And this is another thing that someone said to me. A few people said this. If we had a left, I know he didn't do anything against Palace. And again, I will maintain because people were drilling balls at him 100 miles an hour, neck out with his back to go on the halfway line with the defender up his arse, and that's not his game. If he had been in that box for Billy Mitchell's cross, I would have backed him once more.
Yeah, and this is where I'm not going to get into this until you ask me, but then that is where Rowett is at fault. Let's not get into that just yet. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know we was getting into that, but that's now on the agenda. I'm trying to find, I have got it, but I'm not sure because it's quite a long post on Instagram. How big, I've just uploaded it while you boys are talking. I'm always working, boys. How this is going to look on screen if I'm going to be about to, I can see it. Right, can someone read that out for me? Because I can't see it even with glasses on.
I'll go. Do you want me to go?
Go on, mate.
Go on, Ken. I'm dyslexic.
A little Tom Bradshaw appreciation posters. I didn't get the time to do a post-match analysis yesterday. I don't always get it right, but I've backed this man from day one. I was always seeing loads of he's as bad as Bodvarsson. He's got a touch like a trampoline. He doesn't goals. Well, as I've said many times, he scored goals under Harris, 7 in 7, just before Harris left the club. He's never been given a run under Rowett properly, and if he had, it was a lone striker. His strengths aren't winning headers or holding the ball up with his back to goal. His game is scoring goals. If we actually create chances for him, put the right type of balls in the areas and play another striker up there with him, you'll get the best out of him. 4 goals in the last 6 games. The stats don't lie. Feed the Bradshaw. Love you all. Dan.
Love you all. Can I just say, by the way, I do know, I did look into it, and he didn't score them under Harris. He scored in the last game before Harris left against Luton.
Yes, and then I remember.
He scored 2 against Leeds under Adam Barrett. He scored 1 away at Brentford under Adam Barrett. Then it was sort of in that interim period, but he has scored them. So for me, I'm buzzing he's got a new contract. I just wish it had been he's a little bit younger. Bradshaw is 7 in his last 9 starts. I mean, boys, with the service our strikers get, surely that's a
long. Listen, long may it continue.
Yeah,
I hope he does. Brilliant. Keep going. If he can keep that form up, fantastic. Love it.
Right. Yeah, well said. Okay, so.
Mind you, if we keep that form up, it's not going to be worried about Jed going.
I thought this, but then
that's all right, though, Ken. We've got him in a long-term contract, mate. We'll get loads of money.
Loads of money. I don't think I know he's settled in the area because obviously, I don't think it's any secret that his missus is from the area, so he's happy that he's settled in the area. They got children, etc. So all good. I saw his Instagram story. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but he's moved house, so he's got a new house. Must have knew that new contract was coming. but, yeah, but he's got a new. He's nicely settled in the area. But the good thing I like about him, he's 29, so I don't think anyone's going to buy him. I like it. I'm happy with that. And he gives another one who fucking gives it absolutely everything for the cause. Right. Next up on my agenda that I wrote down in literally 2.5 minutes before we went on air, because I've been at work all day. It just says Fleming, and by that, of course, we're talking about Zane Fleming, another potential dip into the foreign market. I don't know why they're all doing these weird poses. Look, he's at it. Maybe it's a thing over there in Europe, Central Europe, Western Europe. Anyway, I'll leave that to you. Zane Fleming, we've been linked with as well. Since then, of course, since the link to him, it's actually come out from Richard Cowley online that we had a bid rejected for him and Louis Sibley, who for me is a massive talking point. But we'll get onto that one shortly. He's fucking been on the weights, the boy, isn't he? That's for sure. But yeah, Zane Fleming. I didn't write the information down on him, but I will Google it while you two give your opinions. That gets me out of the shit, so I'll sound more factual when it comes back to me. Ken, what do we know about this guy? What have you seen? What have you heard? Anything good? Are you excited?
I can't believe you come to me first. But by the looks of it, me and H have absolutely no information on him. Again, I'll be honest with you. It's another one of them, isn't it? There's a guy for, was it 1.3 million for him? Was it?
I think.
Yeah, 1.3 million for a talent unknown. Again, of course, very exciting that we're looking around, for these type of players. And maybe, just as maybe Millwall supporters, because we're not used to it, you almost you get a little bit edgy on it, because you sit there and think, well, hang on a minute, there's a Ted Smith in League Two that's doing really well. Why are we not going to give him a go? But I'm open to listen. It's not my money I've got to spend.
Yeah. Well, 23 years old. I've got some information now. Plays for Fortuna Sittard, who are in the top tier of Dutch football. They're currently 17th out of 18th in the division. He came through the youth system at Ajax, so he's obviously from good pedigree. However, Ryan Tunnicliffe come through Man United and George Evans come through Man City, so we don't read too much into that. But yeah, Fortuna Sittard, again, it's a similar one to Gouet. I don't know too much about it, but I'm excited we're offering money and there is intent, and I'm excited about the age group. And I don't think we're going for Gouet or we're going for Fleming. I think we're going for Gouet and Fleming. H? Cool, you got way of that, mate. You go last now.
He's an attacking midfielder, right? Is that right? He's not. Is
this the Jed Wallace replacement?
That was going to be my point. Is he indeed the Jed Wallace replacement? But instead of getting him from Wolves, we're getting him from Vitesse Arnhem or whoever NEC. Is that who he is? I saw them play once against Sparta Rotterdam on a stag do, and that's where I'm going to leave that story.
Do you remember much of it?
We got kicked out as it goes because we were giving one of their players so much grief. But it's just it. I don't know. I think they must have scouted him, right? There must be some sort of like
someone's having
idea
a fucking jolly up on weekends in fucking.
It's just been in Bruges, mate. I'll tell you something. That is strong old beer as well. So let's hope he's not out there just on that the whole time. Spending his nights in the red light district in Amsterdam, probably find the most boring brass going and sort of spend an hour just sitting there knowing Rowett. But look, I'm probably not allowed to say that, but I've said it. Whoops.
I know a lot.
Mate. But look, all I'm saying is I just
trying to convince her to be defensive. Go on.
Who knows? Yeah, exactly. When you think about something, like, all right, I'm going to take George Saville. Okay, George Saville's come back to the club. I thought it was a great sign in the summer. I said that. Lots of people have been giving him stick. He's not the same player X, Y, and Z. He's being asked to play in a role by Gary Rowett, which I don't think suits him. He's an attacking midfielder, someone that went and got us 10, 15, 12 goals, I think, under Neil Harris, playing in a much more forward position. He can shoot, he can play make, he can be that link man. But at the moment, he's sitting with Billy Mitchell just in front of the back 3/5. kind of looking like he doesn't really know what's going on. As I said, Palace was his best game because he was able to get stuck in. He had a bit more time and space because of the Premier League sort of set up of those individuals. And I think Billy actually took some of the heat away from him, so he was able to play a bit more freely. But is that just going to happen to this fella? I mean, an attacking midfielder that's going to come in as a holding midfielder.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Is he going to change his tactics? Because isn't it funny how Billy and George Saville just sit in front of the back four? Isn't it funny how Ryan Woods just sat in front of the back four? We're not seeing the best of these players because they're playing to manager's instruction.
It's difficult, and I was just defending Gary Rowett, and a lot of people that I've spoken to have actually said, well, if you remember Brian Clough, which I don't really, his tenure at the end of Forest, he was built on a good defence, and obviously, built that in an era when you could probably build teams a lot easier than you can these days, especially at the Championship level. So I don't know, but there is something that I think if we really wanted to kick on and go for the players, like you said, you've got to bring that energy. We've got to bring a bit more attacking something. I don't really know what to the team in order to try and kick on. But these are the types of players that
you live in hope that the look of Fleming coming in could be maybe a change of tactics for Rowett. This is why, by the way, Conor Mahoney has never played, because he's too exciting. And he wants to take people on. That's why he doesn't fit in under Rowett. But I will say this on the Zane Fleming. I think Steve's had a little bit of a typo there. 66 goals in 123 games over the last 5 years. And since 2020, right? Let's go right back. So he played 2017-18 for Jong Ajax. I think that means Young Ajax. Yes, I can speak Dutch. 25 appearances, 16 goals. But with Papa Gueye, he went to another level and didn't produce. With this guy, 2018 to 20, he played for a team I can't even pronounce. 29 games, 12 goals. He went to NEC on loan. 24 games, 13 goals. Now he's gone to Fortuna Sittard, 45 games, 25 goals. So whichever level he's gone to, he hasn't stopped. He keeps progressing. And to me, that is that's exciting. I like the look of him as well. He's something a bit different, isn't he? He's not your everyday guy.
We were talking about showing a bit of ambition, weren't we? We were talking that Rowett and showing a bit of ambition earlier on in the podcast, and this is a bit of ambition.
Yeah, Ken, you're such. People think that you and Matt Smith are so tight, so close. They're asking you if Ted Smith. That's not the first person I've seen put that.
I'll tell you something, right? Do you want me to tell you what's funny? Because Matt Smith definitely watches this channel, right? I'll tell you why. Because I can't remember what game it was. It was an home game. I was walking past where the players go in, and I saw Matt Smith. And Matt Smith locked eyes with me for something longer than what you normally would. And he just went, all right, like that. And obviously, I literally just fell to the floor. I was like, that was after, by the way, Dan, a steward asked to have a photo done with me.
That's brilliant, mate. That's fantastic.
Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world.
Ricky, mate. No, we saw him. We saw him on Monday, mate.
This isn't on the agenda, and we obviously would never insinuate that Gary Rowett disliked someone so much that he would kill him. He could fucking sue the shit out of us, couldn't he, tonight? But that's someone. That's what go after Ricky Fenton, Gaffer, not me. So you're insinuating where is Ben Thompson at this club? Well, I think I'm surprised he hasn't already left in January. What I will say, Ben Thompson has been a fantastic servant to the club. He's also been a fantastic professional because he's playing for the 23s. The Ugandan Slayer, John Daly Bavarsson, hasn't been, but he's working before that. And that's all I'll say on that Bavarsson wasn't playing for the 23s. Thompson was. That's all I'll say. So read onto that what you want. But Ben Thompson, boys, looks to be one who's way at the club. Such a shame. Fantastic servant. I think he's better than George Evans. I think after watching Keith de Belde on Saturday, I thought he was shit. I know you didn't, H. I think he's got something to offer. He's not technically brilliant, but he's got the mill, kick, bollock, and bite about him. And I think he's something you can have an impact off the bench. He affects games when he plays. Yes, he might fall over 9 times. Yes, 25 of his 35 passes might not reach where they should go. But he comes off the bench, he scores a goal, he puts someone up in the air. And he's been out on that pitch and he's been giving everything for the cause. Ken?
I think it's just the difference in tactics, and that's why Ben Thompson doesn't play. If Ben Thompson, let's say 3 years ago, wasn't in the starting 11, it would be Ben Thompson that would be the type of player that you would bring on, whereas now it's Kieftenbeld that's the type of player that you would bring on. And that gives you the different type of mentality that, say Neil Harris had compared to Gary Rowett. It's that the subs we have are to impact a game. Usually now is to be defence-minded. Ben Thompson, in my opinion, doesn't fit in our midfield with the midfielders that we have. I wouldn't say that he's better than the people that are playing now.
Mm.
So he's only ever going to be.
He doesn't retain the ball, does he?
No,
I think he can't trust him to retain the ball. So when he does play him, he sort of plays him further up the pitch.
And that's what I mean. So he's never going to be. He's only ever going to be a sub. And the way that Gary Rowett, makes his subs or makes his decisions in a game, he's never going to put Ben Thompson on. It's just you're never going to be in a situation where you're going to go, well, we need to stick Ben Thompson on. Whereas maybe 3-4 years ago, we did. He could impact a game potentially, or actually start. To be fair,
yeah. Ben Thompson seems to be a spent force at the club. Do you agree with that? Do you think he's got something else to offer?
I think for his own career, he should have gone to Portsmouth. Not because I want him to, but I think for his career, that's what the right decision would have been. They loved him down there. There's a real Mill contingent down at Pompey. I completely agree with what Ken said about. I think that the players that are on the bench are as good as him, and they've got a bit more experience, and they're a bit more of a seasoned professional. And I thought Kieftenbeld certainly earlier this season looked like a fantastic type of player that was playing in that role.
Him and Ballard were our best two players. For about the first 10 games, and then I think he picked up a knock or something, and maybe hasn't quite got back to it. I mean, I don't really understand why he's getting so much grief against Palace. He didn't really do anything wrong, did he? I mean, he just kept fouling people. Really, he couldn't. He
looked like the pace of the game like Pierce did. He
hasn't played. He hasn't played though. To be fair to him,
and I think he did his best. He did a bit like what Billy Mitchell was doing for the first 40 minutes of that game, was trying to get himself into the game. He was a bit slower than the other players. He was crowded on the ball. People were a bit quicker than him, and then he toughened up, switched on. Second half, he really hung in there and got back into the game. So I don't know. Bless Ben Thompson. I love the geezer. He obviously loves Millwall Football Club. It's a sad shame, but for his own professional career, he should go somewhere else.
See, I agree with that. Saville, the reason people go, Saville, because we're thinking of the Saville from before. And I will say, it's not a hate campaign against Saville, because I was so excited when he was coming back. I was buzzing.
He played out of position.
And I thought he was fucking excellent Saturday.
He's been asked to play in a role.
Yeah, but see how he got back and made that tackle just on half time and didn't concede the penalty. Why hasn't he been doing that in that role in previous games? Because he's been in the same role.
Well, you'd have to ask him that, Dan. I don't know, but I think he gets caught in between wanting to play that role and trying to get a bit further up the pitch, and he's like, "Oh, actually, I can't go across the 40-yard line because Teacher Rowett's going to ask me to not, he's going to give me detention for it or something." So it's I think he's been given a game plan that he's got to try and stick to, and that game plan will change week on week, won't it? Depending on who's in front of him, what team we're playing, what type of tactics.
Yeah, fair point.
We want to try and do, and all of those things. I don't think it's as simple as that. I also think he's been injured. I don't think he's been fully fit, and I think he's had times off, and then he's gone away, played for Northern. No, but I think before that, Dan, and then he's gone off and played for Northern Ireland and come back, hasn't played for 2 games because he's picked up a knock here, there, and everywhere. He's not. He is not. I agree with everyone that's saying he's not the same player that was here previously, but we're not the same team. He hasn't got the same players around him. We're not playing the same system.
He hasn't got the same manager as well. Yeah, I agree. No, I agree. It's a good point. This is what we love. This is what we love. We love the debate, and I do enjoy it. Right, sorry. Moving on. Okay, this one is the one that seemed to... was the one that got the least views on YouTube, but I think that's because I put it out at 9 a.m. But definitely the biggest talking point, because when I saw that Millwall had been rejected for Louis Sibley, I went, ooh. Sorry, that was, ooh, I was excited. But my parade got absolutely shit on by a load of Derby fans who was like, no, shit, he ain't done anything since he scored that hat-trick. So if you didn't know, Louis Sibley played for Derby. He's 20 years old. He looks like a paper boy there. Then he looks about 12. He played for Derby against us at the Den. The first game after lockdown, if I'm correct.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
3-2. Matt Smith scored that day, Matteo. I think Jed Wallace got a pen. He scored a hat-trick, man. I watched the highlights yesterday morning or the day before. He could have scored 7. He was everything we would fucking crave. He was a 10 that run beyond. He had great feet. He could shoot with both feet. He was confident on the ball. He was composed in and around the box. So when I saw a 20-year-old Louis Sibley could be coming to Millwall, I was absolutely buzzing. But as I said, Derby fans have said, nah. I've looked at his Wikipedia since. I mean, look, he's 20 years old. Of course, he just need to freshen up. I don't know too much on this. Of Derby not been playing him because they're in a dogfight and they're going with experience. Someone else told me he's been playing wide. But he's only scored 6 goals in his career. I say only because he scored 3 against us. So, boys, have you got opinions on it? What do we know?
Yeah, I mean, we always say, don't we, that we look at not necessarily the lower leagues, but look at this, look for young talent and get them into the team. Personally, would I have him in the first team straight away? It's probably no. I still don't think he's the type of striker that we're looking for.
He's a 10. Excuse me.
Okay, so he's a 10, but George Saville's a 10 and he doesn't get put in there. Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you what's more frustrating, Dan, actually, is that how many bids have we had rejected?
I said this.
How serious are we about buying a player?
Like I worked in Tunisia years and years and years ago, and I went to this market, and they were the biggest hagglers ever. I'm taking Steve Kavanagh there to get me some shit from a flat because we are the original Erith market hagglers, aren't we? Like, wouldn't it be nice if we just went, right, there's your fucking money, off we go?
Yeah.
Like, it's always, but that's unfortunately, as H said, Berylson keeps digging us out the shit. We are not. We're a club, and we're a business, but we're not either of those things that are running. We're run right, but what is going on? Why are we not running in the right direction? Why is the money fucking going down? Because that won't last forever. You've got
to look at it in this situation where surely with Habib, Papa Guy, and Zane Fleming and Louis Sibley, Millwall surely, firstly they've scouted them, obviously. Then they've obviously contacted somebody at the club. What do you value him at? What would you sell him for? They would be probably 2 natural questions, I'm assuming.
I don't think they'd ask him how much to sell him for because the club would straight away go, Ken, like, mate, you got to get a bit of business savvy. He would go, 3 million quid.
Yeah, yeah, but I know what you're saying, but, some sort of question along the lines of money, you'd have to ask, surely. I mean, I don't know. Like I say, I'm not an agent, but or is our valuation team not very good?
Yeah, no, I just think we're piss takers. I think we're piss takers. You saw that with Josh Windass, didn't you?
But like as well, not being funny, maybe they're realists. Lots of players are massively overinflated these days, especially at like these lower levels. And teams want to try and get, understandably, especially with all the issues they've probably had with COVID, no one being in the stadiums or whatever, to try and get as much as they can for these individuals. And if they look at Millwall coming in, they think, well, there might be other English Championship teams that are going to come in and out-trump that bid because we know that actually Millwall are a bit hard-pressed. And if no one does come in this transfer window, we know that by the end of it, we will probably make a couple of those signings as we always do, not in the final hour, but, in the last couple of weeks. And we'll try and do the business then if we can. I don't know.
Yeah, so I was just looking at some of the comments there. I mean, if we bid 150k again, I would say that's a piss take. Or is that a masterstroke? What we got Bart Bolkowski for eventually?
And also that would also come with signing on. Like we'd say to Derby, okay, if he's a success, you'd get X amount of the sell-on money, which I think is what Wolves did with us and Jed Wallace. So I mean that's so people say 2 million for Forrest or whatever, but I'm sure some of that money would be getting kicked back to the Black Country.
Of course, as well, Derby, a club in turmoil, so maybe strike while the iron is hot. Maybe it's true. But, we said it was probably the best day's work, along with getting Sean Hutchinson for nothing, that Neil Harris ever did. What do we make of this? Because once again, he's gone back to his old players, like he did with Scott Malone, like he did with Mason Bennett, Benik Afobe. Who else? There's more. Keith Beld, Evans. Do you think it's? I'm just like, my mate says to me, "Fucking hell, there's other teams out there, mate. Come on." Or do you think it's good? You know, obviously when he's manager of Derby, Sibley would have been a youngster and coming through the ranks, so he obviously knows him. Do you think it's good business, or do you think he's limited with his approach, and that's why we're now getting people out who I'm assuming is Harvey Bustle, the guy having a jolly up on all the fucking weekends away on the Steins.
I think if you're getting Louis Sibley for 150k, then it's a good bit of business.
I agree.
Look, you know my thoughts on Rowett. You're always going to. If you don't know, you go back to what you're comfortable with. That's exactly. Now, I'm not saying that Rowett. I'm not saying that Sibley was about maybe when he was at Derby, but I'm sure he's probably got contacts with people that are at Derby, and say he could be a bit of class. All the other players, have worked under Rowett. You're just sort of waiting for one to really bode well. And you are better off maybe making that gamble and going with Papa Habib guy and taking a chance. I don't know.
I mean, that Fleming looks like he's got a proven track record. I'm guessing that Fleming is the similar type. I don't think we're going to get Sibley, Guay, and Fleming. But you got to think, I like the look of this Fleming, but to play a player that scored actually against us for one tenth of the price, something like that. In Louis Sibley, you've got to probably say that one's worth a punt, haven't you?
I mean, potentially, but I don't know. Again, it just, these are the types of players that we end up punting around because we can't play the solid money like we got Forrest on Saturday. They've already made 3 signings. They got the money to do it.
Begs the question as well. Sibley's very limited yawn. I would go overseas to Mr. Muscle. That's Fleming. Begs the question, if he's that good, why Derby, who are rock bottom of the division, I know they've had points deducted, but they would be much better off if they hadn't. Willing to send him for 150k. It's always, with Sibley, it's more of a gamble. With this Fleming, in my opinion, it's a bit more concrete. The stats are there. He's come from pedigree. As did George Evans and Ryan Tunnicliffe. But, I know it's just the money situation again, isn't it? Right. There has been other... Oh, there goes Super Steve with some stats. So if he scored 66 goals in 123 games, I'm fucking going to drive out there and pick him up tomorrow. As a 10, Sibley scored 7 in 55. Hang on, Ken, you going to check that mac and cheese, Ken?
I've just got to go and turn the oven down.
All right, mate. Right.
I want to see this mac and cheese, to be fair.
Yeah, I want to see it now. I want to actually have...
I need to see it.
I can't picture it. Do you think it's like a fish pie with like a crust on top? Or I can't. I mean, the smell of it for me would be enough. Yeah. No good. Me and you will stick to the booze. Right. Yeah. So, by the way, I've seen some... Thanks for everyone tuning in, by the way. We're up to 213 people, nearly an hour and a half in. That's risen beautifully since 50. At the start of the show, I've seen some comments from other people, by the way, that I've written down. We will incorporate the George Long thing. Steve Lee's put in. Someone asked about Lyle Taylor, and of course we'll do Forrest as well. Ken, you right to continue, or is that?
Yeah.
Put the gaff down, have you? Right, boys. We're right to carry on for a bit then. Yeah, we've got 4 more points of interest, and first off is some good news. I said he wouldn't come back to the club. Tells you what I know. Apparently, Daniel Ballard is recovering very well. Look who it is, Ken, not Daniel Ballard. Yeah, sorry, Ken and Danny, who sometimes comes on the channel, have a little bit of a bromance. That's a private joke. Daniel Ballard could potentially be coming back shortly to the club after recovering swiftly from knee surgery. Nothing but good news, that one, boys, is it? Ken?
Yeah, I think that's... I think that is good news. We can't... I mean, Murray Wallace, I'd much rather have Murray Wallace, unfortunately, as a wing-back than what I would Malone.
I'm starting to agree with that.
And unfortunately, with Pearce in there at the moment, we'd have to put Murray Wallace in there. So if Ballard's coming back, I think H said it actually right at the beginning about his three main defenders was to be Hutch, Cooper, and Ballard. I'll be really honest. I think that Cooper has had the worst season he's ever had in a Millwall shirt.
No, I agree.
And so when you're looking at the moment, the only defender solidly that we have is Hutch.
Yes.
I think I love Wallace. I love Wallace. I really do, and he would be my second choice. But we definitely need Ballard back. We're screaming back for him.
We'll get on to team selections of Forrest in a minute, but it's an interesting one, and I fully agree with. I'm falling out of love with Scott Malone. I backed him when he come back to the club, and he divided opinion, proving himself a bit more going forward than coming back, and that's why I think. I'm pleased we don't play that one up top with two wide. But when we did, I said he should play high and wide because he can't defend. I think he proved that Saturday, didn't he? But Daniel Ballard coming back, nothing but good news. H, is it? Could we buy him, boys, as well? Is it on the cards? I'm sure we all would. But I thought he was really young. My battery's gone on my phone, but I think he's about 22. I don't think he's as young as I thought.
Yeah, he's played for Northern Ireland, doesn't he? Is it Northern Ireland under 20? I think he's made his debut as well. He has started for them. Yes, I mean, if we could sign him, yes. And it's not ridiculous money, yes, 100%. Because he's a step up again, isn't he? We talk about making this more of a, more of a championship squad and strengthening. He would be a massive step in the right direction. I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult. People giving Scott Malone grief for getting skinned by a French under-21 international.
True.
Really? Okay.
I think
he's a quality player. I mean, it's what he did. He looked like Bambi on ice. Of course he did. But it's difficult when you're playing against someone of that potential quality who cost £8 million. I mean, how much is Scott Malone worth? And I know we can't always make those comparisons, but I'll just say that in his defence. And also, we talk about Rowett being too defensive, and then we get a player who likes to run on, kick on, and try and score goals, and we're like, oh, but we need a better defender. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it, boys. There we are. He scored some fantastic goals last season, but I don't think he has been the same. Dan Ballard, yes, please get him back. I mean, the only caution I'd put into that is we still leak goals. He played fantastic, but we still leak goals when he was there.
Yeah, so I was sticking a thumb up there to Christian Bastianelli, who's going to be tuning into the live stream against Forrest on Saturday. People agreeing with Cooper. There was a point when people were saying, would you rather sell Jed or sell Cooper? And I said, I'd rather sell Jed. I mean, that doesn't look like I've got a choice anyway. But, he's been poor, hasn't he? He's got an absolute worldie, though, by the way, against
But again, I'm going to stick up for Cooper because he's had those two injuries, right? He first of all, he played 119 games on the spin. You're telling me that's not going to take it out of you? At that level, yes. Then he had, a separated shoulder. He continued to play. And then he had another issue with his back or something. He's not been fit. So yeah, okay. He's not been right this season.
I've got a great question for you, H. If Arsenal turned around and said, for $1 million, you can have Ballard and we'll take Cooper, would you do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, fucking course.
Yeah. But the reason why I ask you that
is fucking Cooper for paint the ceilings.
No. Listen, the reason why I say that is because I honestly think I've got a lot of friends that are Arsenal fans, and they've turned around and said that Ballard is picked. They're saying he's the next Tony Adams.
That was my understanding.
Yeah. And I think he will be well out of our price range to buy him. And I also do think he's a completely different class above what we've got. And that's no offence to Hutchinson. Because say Hutchinson's probably later on in his years, but compared to where Ballard is right now to where we think he can be, I think he'll be priced out in the market. And I also think you're right about the Scott Malone thing. I think his defending is poor. However, I think that Elise will be world class. I really do. I think he's an amazing player, and he won't get put to his right that quickly by any other player this season. I don't think a Premiership defender really would have got close to him when he got skinned for his first goal. You know, the first goal he scored when he cut in. That was quick. That was lightning.
So quick.
Yeah.
He had cut in and taken the shot before I could move the beer from here to there. And I was like, oh, I'm still on the concourse.
That's an interesting one. Ballard's contract expires this summer. We could get him on a free. And I'm not saying you boys are wrong. I'm not saying he's outstanding, because I'd make him a record signing. I'd do everything we could to sign him. If we offered allegedly £2 to £3 million for Jason Malumbi, I know it's a different position. I think he's fucking in their positions miles more effective for us and efficient for us, being a defender as well. Why is he not already in the Arsenal first team? If he's the next Tony Adams, if he's an All-Ireland international, he's 22 years old. He ain't.
So, Dan, if you look at his progression, he played at who is it in League One? Yeah. He was at Blackpool, got promoted with them, didn't want to stay there, wanted him to kick on a bit and be a bit closer to home, so he's come to Millwall. Perfect environment, you know, to go away and cut your teeth and do that kind of stuff and learn what it is to be a defender in the Championship at a decent level, and then come back at 23 and then start to maybe learn what it's like to be in the Premiership. I mean, what Steve Lee's just said, that's my understanding, that Dan Ballard, he's already played international football for Northern Ireland. All right, it's only Northern Ireland, and obviously, you know, Saville can play for them and all these other players that we think are terrible. But, you know, they almost qualified for the Euros. He's got a very, very bright future ahead of him. I
think you've got to factor in as well, like, it would work at Millwall. I'm not saying he wouldn't work at Arsenal, but how often do you see these Premiership teams at that top end integrate homegrown talent? All right, Bukayo Saka, all right, and Emil Smith-Rowe as well. But don't you think if Arsenal start progressing, fucking, I answered my own question, didn't I? Mikel Arteta would just go out and spend 40 million on a centre-back. I'm not saying he isn't up to it, but I'm saying he might not ever get that opportunity.
Then he'll go to Everton or someone like that.
Yeah, there's a possibility if they had someone like Jose Mourinho in charge, where he won't give the youth an opportunity. And then, but I think you're right. If we got promoted this season, we might be in the loop for him. But other than that, no.
Yeah, Matthew Richards says surely a Prem club. We've got to face it. He's a class above. All right, so the bad news is he's isn't signed for us as much as I'm trying to get him through the door. But the good news is imminently looks like he could be back for what some of our things would be.
Yeah,
you said it. Not for me, but there you go. Right, okay. So as I'm crossing more stuff off, I'm writing more stuff down, and Kenny's fucking macaroni further and further away.
Right, it's all right. I'm on gas mark 1, just keeping it warm.
You can have it for breakfast tomorrow. On the building site, pull out a macaroni lobster cheese.
That's right.
We are. We are ticking them off, boys. We are ticking them off. People asking in the comments, thoughts on Ojo this season. Now I'll start because he come to the club. Signed on deadline day. Was you streaming me that night, Ken? You was on the stream that night, wasn't you?
Yeah.
Brilliant, buzzing. Gary Rout apparently said to John Belson, "We need someone else. I need this guy." We got him in. He played one game against West Brom. Then he got ill, as we like to call it, or I just call it COVID because I had it. Then he sort of didn't really, it takes time to recover, and of course it does, but he didn't really ever get back in. He was coming on in bit parts. And then he got to the point about 4 weeks ago that I just thought, he's just fucking annoying me now. If he's that good, why is he still at Liverpool at 24, is he? Something like that. And I just thought he's been on loan everywhere, but he keeps getting contracts at Liverpool, which puzzled me. I then said, no, look, I can't have this guy. He's pulling out of tackles. And I think he must have watched Lions TV, mate, because since then he's had a rock up his arse. And I think, don't get me wrong, we've changed formation as well and played a 10. I think he's been fucking outstanding. If he plays until the end of the season like he has in the last two, I'd do everything I could to sign him. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, it's again boils down to, in my opinion, Gary Rowett and where he plays players on the pitch. I think Ojo. I was there at the West Brom game.
You've been saying that. Sorry, Ken. You've been saying that for so long, haven't you?
Oh, mate, honestly,
he doesn't play any of them in the right positions or formations. You've been saying it forever.
Me personally, I'd have Millwall in the playoffs by now if I was manager. But I probably wouldn't. But what I'm talking about, like position-wise and stuff like that, he played actually. Funnily enough, I'm pretty sure he played on the right-hand side against West Brom. Because he came, I remember him coming down the right hand side. Didn't he? He had a shot on goal, didn't he?
Yeah.
Which to our left, it was on the right. But he was lightweight. He didn't want to be on the ball really. He plays so much better on the ball, controlling play, looking for that pass into the likes of someone like Bradshaw. The pass that he gave Afobe in a couple of games. That is the type of player that he is, where he collects the ball, he can turn, and he can then
travel.
Yeah.
It looks as well with him as a little bit like it looks like similar to Conor Mahoney. When they're on the ball, they look so calm and it just looks effortless what they're doing. Do you know what I mean?
But you know what the biggest problem is that he's doing exactly what George Saville could do in that 10. So
I don't agree with that. I think they're different types.
Yeah. But the argument is that I reckon that George Saville would score more goals in that position than
I agree with that.
And Ojo is an R player. So my thing would be, what I'd rather do is I'd rather see George Saville in that 10 next season rather than signing Ojo.
Well, I think that I agree with some of what you said. I think they're completely different types of players. I think Ojo's one that will collect, try and run with the ball at his feet, pick killer passes, maybe take players on. George Saville is a press high, turn them over, arrive late in the box type of player. H is not sure. I think he's going to disagree. And by the way, I loved Ojo the last 2 games. However, someone said their final ball, which when I think back, I don't remember him. He set up Afobe's penalty. Brilliant. That was in that 10. He set Matt Smith up for the first goal away at West Brom, Forrest, sorry. And he set up Bradshaw for one of the goals against Stoke. So we need more from him. It's all good, looking good on the ball and travelling nicely with it. But we need more end product. We need more assists. But I agree, Saville would definitely get more goals in that position. But I think he's a completely different type of player to Ojo. Like I said, his attributes to what Ojo's are. But yeah, you'd rather keep Saville, put him in a 10.
Yeah, because I think Saville's had an awful season. However, again,
I'm gutted about that at all.
Yeah, but again, I think he's had an awful season because of where he's playing. You know, my opinion is he is a 10, and I think H said earlier he got 12 goals when he was playing in that position. I think this season he could have easily got 12 goals again playing in that position, and probably 5 or 6 more assists. And all of a sudden, there's your 10 goals, H.
Exactly. Well, I'd love to see how many shots he's had this season, because I bet it ain't many.
No,
I haven't looked it up, but you know, it's maybe some should. And that's
Ojo.
not, you know, no, Saville. I'll be honest, I don't get Ojo. I understand why Rowett probably tried to get him in. You know, he looked like one of those exciting players. He's got the word Liverpool near his name. You know, people get all excited about that kind of stuff. I don't understand him. I hope that he can start doing what he's been doing in the last couple of games, and we get to see a bit more of that flair, I guess. So a bit more of that putting balls in or whatever it is that he's doing. You know, I'll tell you the game that I'm going to judge him is Blackpool away. Because if he starts pulling out that kind of stuff when we're playing Blackpool in 2 weeks' time, okay, yeah, this geezer can probably cut it, and he's not. To me, he just doesn't look like he's hungry, like he's someone that's trying to fight his way into that Liverpool first team, or even into the squad. You know, like he's
must realise he's not getting near that.
But well, so is he fighting for a contract then? What's he doing? I can't work out
what
he's doing.
He's got to have an unbelievable agent. He's doing what he's got to do. It's the Liverpool side of it. Why are they offering him contracts? He's 20. Is he 24? Steve, Phil, is he 24? Is he 24? Because he's not. You know, again, I'm a strong believer. If you're not in there early, get the fuck out the door and get playing. I always say this. I hope he proves me wrong, but I just don't get him. Fair enough. All right. So look, if right here, right now, would I sign him? No, I'd be more interested in seeing what this Fleming's about, because we know that Ojo's. I don't think he's ever going to set the world right. That's why he's been on loan to Cardiff. That's why he's been on loan to Rangers. He's had a lot of loans. You know what I mean? So I think he's just travelling around. If you was Ojo, this is not really a Millwall thing, but would you want to just go and take the money? Would you actually want to look back and go, do you know what? I played fucking 200 games there. I played 150 games there. I had a good go. Or would you just be sitting there going, I played in the reserves. I signed for Liverpool 15 years and never kicked a football. Like, would you be counting the money? I want to actually go, that's what I did in my career.
I think football's different now, though, isn't it? It's not, maybe 30 years ago, it was about the passion, the pride, the badge on your shirt. Whereas, unfortunately, now it's about, well, if I can make a killing there, then I'll go. I
get that, but I know what you're saying.
If Jed Wallace was offered 50 grand by Millwall and 50 grand a week by Nottingham Forest, he'd stay with Millwall. You'd like to think, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? Because then it's about passion and pride, but it won't be. It'll be about money. And I get that you've got families to feed and stuff like that, but I could probably feed my family for 16 grand a week.
I was about to say, you fucking 16 grand a week. Look,
at a push,
I used to have when I was a builder, I earned good money, but not even to that. Nowhere near that extent. But you can only eat fucking one sandwich at fucking the cafe, can't you? You can only fucking sleep in one bed. Like, how much money do you fucking need?
Exactly. Unless you're eating lobster, crayfish, and crab mac and cheese every day.
You are fucking living it, mate. You are absolutely living it. There is, Ojo carries more threat. Saville should play behind Ojo, some attacking midfield. No. Imagine, take that to Rowett, see how far you get with that CBO 1885. Sav should play in behind Ojo, Sav attacking mid, and Ojo at a 10. Well, attacking mid is a 10.
I think that you need to put someone like Saville. That's when, for instance, you wouldn't mind still having Afobe there. I don't think if you had someone like Saville behind them. But he was so dangerous when he played with us before. Playing in that 10, he scored goals, he created opportunities.
He just seemed to arrive. He had that knack of just arriving in the box.
Which is what a 10 should do.
Similar to Cahill did. Cahill arrived at the right time and scored headers, didn't he? Saville just arrived at the right time, just like fumbled one in or whatever. But like Steve says there, that is. I know H will say, and rightly so, that he's not playing that position. And he hasn't, to be fair to Saville, since we've gone to 2 up front and started playing Ojo in a 10, we haven't given Saville that reign, have we? The only time I remember him scoring his season where he arrived late in the box was it in the Carabao Cup or in one? Yeah, it was Cambridge.
Yeah, maybe.
He arrived late.
I was at the Cambridge game, but it was so tediously boring. I don't really remember much about it, to be honest.
Do you know what I think we've got to address just quickly?
Go on. I was trying to wrap it for your two sakes, not mine. I ain't got to do it.
And I know you don't like me talking about it, but it's the biggest problem we have, and they talk about creating opportunities, is because we have 2 midfielders in our team that are playing as CDMs.
Yes.
Yes. And
you see that against Palace. Yes.
Yeah. Billy Mitchell is never going to be allowed to show his full potential. So what he does is he does what he has to do very well.
Yes.
Yeah. Gets the ball, retains it, sticks it wide, done. Right. That's why he has one of the highest pass rates in the league, because he gets the ball, drops it off. That's what his job is to do. Right. George Saville, again, flitters about, usually has the pressure off of him because Billy Mitchell's doing such a good job. But attacking wise, and we have a 10 that most of the time doesn't really know what he's doing, might find himself on the wing that side, right? That's why we don't create opportunities. Kifthenbeld, when we played the first part of the season, QPR, I remember, first game, he was absolutely sensational.
Yes.
I think it was Billy Mitchell, wasn't it, that played with him?
So
you had Kifthenbeld sitting, covered. It wasn't. Who was it?
Right, no. Ryan Leonard come off the bench, so did Billy. It was Saville.
It might have been
George, yeah.
So you've got Kifton Bell covering, Saville can then flitter about and push forward, and that's what we're missing. We're missing the creating from midfield because Rowett is making them play too deep. That's my opinion.
And we've had that chat.
I can't disagree with that.
We had that chat.
I disagree with
exactly that the other day. Right. Moving on finally, okay, to Forrest on Saturday. I know on Saturday, well, I don't know. In my opinion, I think I'm going to be fucking going mad at full time. And not in a good way. Because I don't think that Rowett's going to go, right, you show me what you can do. Go and be that intense against Forrest. Press them high. And by the way, we'll have more of the ball against Forrest. And we'll have more opportunities against Forrest. Go out there and give exactly what you got. Press high. Get in their faces. Let's fucking, try and play in their half. Pin them in their half and try and go for the win. I think we're going to go back to exactly what we used to do or what we do under Rowett. We're going to sit back. We're going to let them attack. And when they score, then we'll go and score one. If I was right, I'd go, hang on. Teams score, and then we go, all right, well, now we'll go and score. So we can score. So why don't we just score first? That's what I don't get. But people in the comments as well, a good thing as well, and I did mess this up, by the way, in my preview. So I need to find a way to rectify that, but that's my problem. Steve Lee said earlier, George Long. Is he in line to replace Bolkowski? Because Ken, a long time ago, you said, I tell you should be the manager. Not the Seven Oaks Colts or whatever they're called. You should be the manager. What are they called?
I'm a manager of Otford. I don't know where you got Seven Oaks from.
Otford.
But yeah.
Shout out to Otford under whatever they are.
Under 12s. Under 12s.
I was just guessing his age there. I went forward. I was right there, weren't I? 11. Otford under 12. You should be manager of Millwall. You said you like George Long.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Bart. Big fan of Bart. I think he's a fantastic shot stopper. And again, I'll get a load of crap for this, but I never really thought he was a fantastic goalkeeper. I think his positioning is great, but I think he's very. You have to be careful with him getting that ball in and around his feet. He can't move his feet that quick as what he could maybe a couple of years ago. He can't get down, and he's starting to do a little bit of Jordan Archer-esque. What I mean by that is that he sort of dives after, or he doesn't even bother sometimes now.
Yeah. Garcia said he's done nothing wrong, and he hasn't, right? And he's been back-to-back player of the season, and it's a fucking absolute masterstroke getting him, especially he's got no kneecaps. So money we got him from. But eventually, like David Ford, age does start to creep in, and he's 34.
And I think it is, Dan. I think it is. I don't necessarily think he'll be our number one next season. And if he is, then he definitely won't be the season after.
Well, I think he got an extra year, didn't he? Which was next year. So I think next season you might. George Long played in the cup because Gary Rowett said in the press. I think it was at News at Den said, George Long. We made a promise to George that when he signed, he will be playing in those games because he doesn't play for the 23s ever, by the way. And Frank Fielding used to. Do you know what I mean? So I think when he was fit, I think he's a great goalkeeper. I'm hearing he's really good in training. He's obviously fantastic with his feet, which is a massive thing for goalkeepers these days. So look, Bart's our number one. I don't dispute that. And he's been fantastic for us. But I think bringing Long in to play these games eventually will, you'll see the integration eventually, the transition, and Bart will drop out. But I'm not saying now, but I fully expect by the end of next season, Bart to probably leave and George Long to be number one, but he's a unit. Looks good. I like him. H.
Yeah, it's done nothing wrong as far as I'm concerned. I don't disagree with anything that's been said. And actually, Tommy's made a really good point there. Yeah, I think his distribution is average. I think he's had some fantastic shot stopping moments here and there. Some actually unbelievable saves where you look back and go, how's he kept that out? But all goalkeepers can do that, right? That's something we've had a good pedigree over the years of goalkeepers. Certainly, the time I've been watching them, with a few exceptions. So, I could live with that definitely.
Right, of course. Saturday brings Nottingham Forest to the ground to the Den. And I'll ask you both what you think, how we think we should approach it, and how we will approach it. But before we get onto that, of course, Jed Wallace hasn't played this year. Okay, a lot of people asking about Lyle Taylor in the comments. I don't personally think that's got any legs. I did actually ask you, H, didn't I, before the show, what the crack was with that, because I've been really busy today. But Jed hasn't played this year. Of course, the transfer window's open. People going, oh, Jed's conveniently injured. No, I don't believe he's doing that to get out the door before he has to play again. You know, I think he's more honest than that. However, of course, with the rumours of Nottingham Forest, is it likely that Jed might not play on Saturday and then leave for Forrest, who we've then played twice and he won't have to see us again this season? Or am I forging fake opinions in my mind?
If I was... Go on. Sorry, H.
I was just going to turn that on its head and say, does he get back in the team? There's a serious question after Palace.
Yeah, that's not a bad
point.
shout.
That's a good point.
I think that if I was Jed Wallace, after he's given a lot to our club, and he's also very passionate with the fans, isn't he? At QPR, remember when we were at QPR and he come running over to the fans? He is always at note one of the players that will always come over on away games and clap the fans, etc. If I was Jed Wallace and I was going to Nottingham Forest, I would go after we've played Nottingham Forest. I wouldn't be able to face it. That's just maybe just me as a person, but it would be a lot easier for him, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think so. H, what do you think? And also, you did tell me before the show that this Lyle Taylor, I mean, loads of people have been asking, but this Lyle Taylor thing is bollocks.
Yeah, I read exactly what Josh is saying there. Exactly what I read on Twitter. Cowley said no. There's been no link or discussion about Taylor as far as he's aware from the club's point of view. So that sounds like that's a non-goer. Taylor scored 3 goals, I think, in 18 games for Forest.
He's not a great striker, is he? And he has a horrendous attitude, doesn't he? His attitude is poor. I mean, look at what he done at Charlton. He refused to play.
Yes, exactly. It's not the kind of influence we need, and
Yeah, Ken, look, if you're Watford, a few Millwall fans in Oxford, do you know Johnny D?
Well, I don't know, Johnny D. I might know you. I live right next to Watford.
But he's not going to say exactly where, because I don't want everyone around his house.
No.
Trevor Romakoff says few pints in the ball, Watford, Kenny.
That's right, yeah. Literally round the corner from me.
Where's the one I went to that you sent me an to? Where was that? That was all right.
That was the Rose and Crown, I think.
Well, a little conservatory on the side.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think it's the Rose and Crown, yeah.
Anyway, Trev, good to see you. I actually thought about you, Trev, thinking, I always think about regulars who ain't been in for a while. I'm thinking, have I upset them? But good to have you back, sir. Right. So, boys, finally, Forrest. How would you approach it? And how does Rowett, do you think he'll approach it?
Then I'm lost. As you know, I'm not going to the games at the moment just because it makes my head explode and I can't do it. If you're asking me what team will Gary Rowett pick, I don't know. If you're going to ask me what I think the score will be, I don't know. The only thing I can guarantee
predictions for Saturday in the comments. Go on, Ken. Sorry.
The only thing I can guarantee you is the formation.
Yeah,
and that's it.
We sort of got away from this 3 at the back at home, but now we've gone 2 up front. He sort of snuck it back in without people really noticing, hasn't he, H?
Yeah. I think, and the problem, I think it's going to be. It's going to be a 2-1 game, and I think that could go either way. If you look at Forest, their form's schizophrenic. If you look at our form, it's schizophrenic. If we play like we did against Palace, I think we've got a great chance of defeating them. But they have some random results. I mean, they beat Swansea away 4-1. Then they lose at Borough. Then they lose to Huddersfield. Then they beat Arsenal. They've also got Derby coming up next week. And I'm not saying that's a factor in the modern professional era, but, when you've got a big derby, and that is their big derby, Derby is their big derby, obviously. They might have half an eye on that maybe, but they've got 2,000 fans coming down, like we say, Steve Cooper, who, let's face it, is not going to win any beauty competitions, is he? He's trying to get his team to play some attractive football because that's, you know, all he can hang on to. I'm being honest there, you know. But I don't know. I've got no idea what the team's going to be. But I mean, yeah, just Jed
But
Wallace
do you
get
think
back in?
Rowett? Okay, so I mean, do you think Rowett would bear in mind? I think in his mind, he takes nothing from the game against Palace. In my mind, he doesn't go, well, do you know what? We pressed the Premier League club high. We was high intensity. You know, it was in their faces, and we'll go and do that against Forest, and we'll have more joy with it. Because they're not at the level at Palace. I'm not incorporating their goalkeeper in that, by the way, the fucking goal he give us. But we're going to get more chances. We're going to be more lively. And we could turn them over. I think he's going to go, no. 3 at the back, 2 wide men. Try and see what we can nick out of the game. How about Zampa the Lion? That's what I was laughing at. 1-1 and Jed to go in with them on the team coach.
Yeah, get good odds on
Daniel
Paddy Craig.
Shout out to James Bond. You're going for 3-1, the Bradshaw hat-trick. Well, I'll back the Bradshaw, but not to that extent.
I mean, the other thing as well is that they, you know, Forest have been playing the same formation as us.
I think it's got fucking. Well, I don't want to say it's got written all over it because I've got a preview show going up at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, so I won't spoil that. Predictions, boys? You said 2-1 either way. Which way?
Millwall. 2-1 Millwall.
I'm gonna go with a solid 1-1 draw.
Fair enough. He's been scoring that fucker. I'm not talking about Bradshaw. I'm talking about grabbing. He scored 3 in his last 5. Scored against Arsenal, didn't he? Just before we wrap it, because we are 2 hours deep now, and Kenny's cremated his dinner. People asking in the comments. We will wrap it with this because nearly 2 hours deep, and I've got to let you boys get on, even though we're randomly still growing in numbers. People saying about Alex Pearce. We've not mentioned Alex Pearce. He's been outstanding in the last few games. Has he? I think he's surprised. I didn't think we expected him to play again. We always say he's an expensive cheerleader. I do agree that he's been decent.
I think we've been yeah. I agree with that. He definitely is doing his best. I think that we've been very lucky in the games that we've played that they haven't played to his disadvantage.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
I completely agree. I saw his name on the team sheet, and look, you know, yeah, look, here we go. On Saturday, and I was thinking going into the game, we could easily lose this 3 or 4. I've seen us lose at home to Palace 4-1. You know, yeah, we went down and that.
Yeah.
And it was very close to being 3-1, wasn't it? They hit the post and whatever. But I just assumed. But you know, he surprised me. But even then, you know, he was kind of hanging in there with his fingernails at times. Like, you know,
it's petrifying.
Yeah, it was every time the ball went up there. But he, you know, it's making it work by hook or by crook. But I tell you what, yeah, I'd much rather have a more solid Muzzer back in there.
The mountain motorways. Right, boys. I'd love to keep you longer, but I've had you 2 hours. So yeah, the numbers are still growing as well. Up to 221, but that's been our best show yet so far. I think it's flowed really well. No internet disruptions. I want to try and do this a bit more regular, but if we do it more regular, we can't, you know, we won't have as much to talk about. But maybe we'll do it next week because hopefully there'll be some actual transfers through the door. Yeah.
I'm always free, mate.
Always free. H, you're always free.
If it's a Wednesday, obviously, because you've got the No One Likes Us Talking podcast that goes out on a Friday. So we record that on a Thursday. If anyone wants to tune into that, it's available on all good podcast streaming channels as well. Cheeky
bastard. Yeah. Check the No One. Yeah, I don't mind the No One Likes Us one. Yeah, sorry. And another bit of that tongue. But all right, boys. Well, thanks a lot. Really enjoyed it. And hopefully we'll be chatting next week after 3 points against Forrest. And some players through the door, and Jed Wallace on a 5-year contract. Sound good?
Yes. We'll have bundles of that.
Nice one. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Please subscribe to Lions TV. Come on, you Lions.